right, we are live once again. I'm very excited about the guest today, Kielly Chan. She is a placement agent service, and she's just an overall good person in the north side of Atlanta. So let me bring in Kielly and welcome to the show, Kielly.
Hello. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for letting me be here. Super
I'm
excited.
glad I'm glad you're here. So how was your fourth?
It was fun. I have a 6-year old, so we have to have fun. We have to have fun. We definitely did fireworks. I made some ribs, some barbecue, and we enjoyed it. Was a lax day, and he was excited about fireworks. So we literally drove up the street, we parked, and we saw fireworks, and he was good. So we had a good time. How
Well,
about
too
you?
bad we don't live closer. I would have come and got some of that barbecue from you. Yeah, we were saying before the show, so your son is starting school already, August 1st?
Yes, yes. So right now things are busy trying to prepare for him to go back to school. He's going to be in first grade. He's
Geez.
excited to see his friends because he's the only child. So he's kind
Uh,
of done summer, solo. So he's
yeah,
excited to go back.
yeah. Well, as you've probably heard many times, enjoy the days of that age because you're going to blink and he's going to be all grown up, and every season brings a new chapter, right?
So true. So true. So I'm
Well,
trying
let's
to
get
enjoy the moment.
let's get things going and just tell us a little bit about yourself, about Cedars of Life, your business, and your passions of it, and just fill
Yeah.
us in a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I am a social worker by trade and have always loved the senior population and had worked in the hospital for like the last 8 years. And kind of during the pandemic, I wanted to use my skill set to kind of work with families outside of the hospital. And
Mm.
so that is how Cedars of Life was birthed. I would do placement in the hospital setting, and so I was taking those skills and really just bringing them to my business in order to help families to kind of walk with them more one on one on a personal level and
Hmm.
be available outside of the hospital to meet with them if they want to tour together, as they're looking for assisted living, independent living, or memory care, that I could be there and, do an assessment and help them navigate that. So for me, it was really just something that I already enjoyed, and just taking those same skills and utilizing them more on a one-on-one basis with families.
Excellent. Well, I want to ask you about your name because we have quite a few cedar trees on our property. So there's not as many cedar trees as there are pine trees. But I'm just curious, how did you come up with the name with
Yeah,
the cedars in it?
absolutely. So, as a woman of faith, I started to pray about this business before even like moving it forward in it.
Hmm.
And Psalm 92 had came up for me, and Psalm 92:14, it talks about how, as people get older, they will still bear fruit in old age. And what that
Ah,
meant for me was quality of life,
okay.
that across the lifespan, you could still have quality of life and what that looks like for each individual. And so that's how I got Cedars of Life. It talks about the cedars trees in Psalm 92. And so it compares, just a quality of life as being fruitful. And so that's how the name came about.
That is awesome. Yesterday it was at a senior niche, and it was at a assisted living community here on the south side, and one of the residents there, Keely, was 909, and I
Wow.
was just like, "Oof." And they went and I toured the community, and they had a little, they called exercise room, and they had this exercise board up. And up till a few months ago, this lady was the one that led the class at 108. She was sitting
Whoa.
in her wheelchair and leading the class. And I'm just like, and then there was another lady that we were there in the hallway talking, and she was on one of those walkers that you put your elbows on, and she
Yep.
could walk up straight. And she was wearing me out, just doing laps around the hallway. And I said, "You are doing a good job. You're wearing me out." And she stopped and she goes, "Well, when you have two rods in your neck and a fractured pelvis, blah, blah." And I'm just like admiring the tenacity
Yeah.
of that, just seeing her plowing forward. But, cedar trees are strong. So you got to be strong to do stuff like that. But
Awesome.
tell us a little bit about how you can help families navigate senior living, and of course, include their healthcare providers in the conversation and the importance of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it is very important to have, your healthcare providers included in the conversation. But for me, when we're navigating through healthcare, navigating through senior placement, I feel like a lot of the times, you as a placement agent, you're going to see these different family dynamics play out. And a lot of the times, families, moms, dads, family members will be sometimes more receptive to
Mm,
that healthcare provider versus a family member, their daughter or their aunt telling them, hey, Mrs. Brown, I don't know that you need to be at home right now. And like, it's not a
yeah,
safe situation. So setting it up where families, if mom has had this primary care for 20 something years, then surely mom has a relationship with this primary care. So why not have this person to weigh in on their health care, what they're recommending as a safe plan, and then including that placement agent to kind of be there to say, hey, these are your options, in the community. And so sometimes that's more weight in for, patients and families versus it coming from a family member. They feel like
yeah.
sometimes you're just bugging.
Well, hey, speaking firsthand, that is so true. Because me and my sisters and my wife, and there's certain things you try to talk with your parents about, and some on a little different but same topic. Someone can Me and my wife been married 34 years, I think now, and
Wow.
someone can say something to me, and I'll act like it's some profound thing, and my wife look at me and go, "I've been telling you that for 25 years," and you're
So
going,
true. So
"All
true.
right, well, got me there." But same
Finally
thing.
snapped. Click.
So same thing applies to talking with your parents, or your any loved one that you're trying to get them to have a better quality of life, because I've said it many times, mom and
Mm,
dad, they want to stay at home as long as they can, but
yeah.
for us, and assessing them and watching, it's like, sometimes it'd be a better quality of life if they would maybe consider, if anything, going to some senior centers just for social interaction, but they're so comfortable in their ways or whatever. So with that said, do you have any personal experiences with your own loved ones navigating
Oh,
healthcare? And
yeah.
is that a can of worms?
Oh, yes. I'm actually walking through that right now in life.
All right.
Actually, just came back from California. My dad lives there, and he's in beginning stages of dementia. He can
Okay.
still have meaningful conversations, still engage, but some things he is forgetful and needs a little extra help with. And
Hmm.
so he had to have a very tedious procedure because he has so much healthcare comorbidities. And so his procedure, we knew that, post surgery, from talking to the doctor, that it was going to take him probably longer to recover. And so he would
Hmm.
likely need to have some type of maybe skilled
Skilled
nursing.
nursing.
And
Okay.
at some point, he might even need a long-term placement. So I went to California and, tried to have these conversations, but realized, because my grandmother, his mom, is like the primary decision maker and I'm secondary. And
Okay.
so she's from that generation where you take care of your family. You don't put them in
Yeah.
the nursing home. And
Yep.
so, of course, that brought up some dynamics, some conflict, but I had to step back because one thing I know is that people learn from trial and error. And so I was just there for support and said, gave a suggestion. And when that was, kind of like, no, we're going to go here, I stepped back, allowed my dad, who was non ambulatory,
Okay.
come home to her house. I was there. And that first night, my grandmother looked at me and said, I
Hey,
can't.
by the way, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
not laughing at it. I'm just
Yeah,
smiling at, like, sometimes you're like, hey, it is what it is. And it's no
yeah,
disrespect. You're
no,
not trying to put them in the closet, or in a back
no,
room. It's actually for their best interest,
yeah,
because it is what it is. Obviously, it's got to be a huge challenge on you to be on the East Coast.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
he,
that. Do you
Hmm.
have any siblings?
I do have siblings. I'm the oldest of the group. So my
Okay.
siblings are really young. And
Okay.
so they, they were just kind of just traumatized. They go into the hospital, they see dad with all these tubes. And so they're traumatized. So really it's, my grandmother and I. And I was so happy that she came to that realization. And so now it's okay. I did not point the finger and say, I told you so. I said, look, let's
Yeah.
move from here, get him in a safe place. And what I did too, because my dad wasn't receptive to going to skilled nursing. So what I did when he
Mm.
went back to the hospital, I told the healthcare providers, this is what I've done for 8 years, but I need you to go in there and have this conversation with him because
Yeah.
I feel that he'll probably listen to you. And sure
Yeah.
enough, he was receptive when the doctor came in, the social worker, and told him the same thing that I had been
You've been
saying.
saying, yeah.
It clicked.
Yeah.
So
That's just
yeah,
dynamics, family dynamics.
yeah,
But again, I know that's got to be really challenging to be that far away.
yeah.
But there again, it's challenging to be too close because I'm on a flag lot with my mom and dad. So sometimes I just want to go running off through the woods, help. And my wife keeps me centered with that because and okay, and I'm the baby of the family. So I
Yeah.
know with you being the oldest, I think about my oldest sister, Debbie. Is it true? You guys feel like you were the guinea pigs, right? And,
Yes, we get
and
the
we're the babies and we get
love.
away with everything, right?
Yes, this is true.
so,
At
so
least for
that
me.
but that's another part of caretaking is family dynamics. So whether if you're an only child, had a girl Nan, she actually did a show of sharing her story, and her father was actually my school teacher. And so Nan came on, and she was an only child. So it was really interesting to just hear her story and her perspective. And she lost both of her parents very close together. And so it was, it's like we kind of take things for granted to where, I have,
Uh,
siblings, and it was just her, all on her own. So that, everything has its own challenges. But I want to bring up a topic since, you and I both are in the same field, and I'm really proud to meet people like yourself because what I want people to understand is when it's done right, we're all in this together. We're not really quote unquote competition. If we truly are advocates for seniors, and like you and I have been talking, and the goal is you're in the north side of the state and I'm in the south side of the state. So naturally, what's awesome is knowing your heart, knowing your faith, knowing that you have a like type of personality and mindset that if someone comes along that is on your side of town, we can still help them. And
absolutely.
so it's a synergy, it's a synergistic approach. So that's why I look forward to having, people that are in the same field because we can serve others. And that leads to the elephant in the room of the national accounts like a place for mom. And so, with that said, part of any advice you have for families trying to navigate, senior living and make those decisions together, let's talk about what makes independent agencies advantageous, and why there's no cost to the family, and why we're not trying to bash those national services. We're just trying to bring awareness to when you're in the midst and the throes of this, and you unknowingly go and you're looking for assisted living. What happens that if you fill out that form, the negative impacts of that? Because if you don't mind, share
Yeah.
your observation of that and your advice for families that are trying to navigate that.
Absolutely. This is really, really a great discussion question. I think that, a local placement agent, first off, is in relationship with those communities that you're looking to be in. And so it's not like they're just sending out like a bunch of emails to blindly to different communities, but they know what's going on in the communities and they stay connected on a regular basis. So when you come, for help from a placement agent that's in that community, they're going to give you recommendations based on what they know firsthand. And not
Mm,
only that, we are both kind of trained in, looking into family intel. So patients we've already placed in communities, going back, having conversation with them, so that way we know like firsthand what's going on in those communities. So when we have a client that's coming with the interest in that community, we can offer insight firsthand to you about what's going on and how great, how lovely this community is, and kind of
mm,
know what's a good fit. So, there's nothing to me that beats a local placement agent that is in that community, time and time again, has great trusted feedback for you,
yeah,
and is looking at the state reviews. We're not just going to recommend or refer you to somewhere where we've seen those state reviews. We know what the family intel is. And if it's not good, you can trust that we're going to let you know. We're going to give you
yeah,
that information so you can make an informed decision.
yeah. I think what happens is what people aren't aware of is we both understand the business side of things, that these assisted living communities, they are a business, and they need to fill rooms and need occupancy. We get
Right.
that. However, when people go and they're the ones that agree to sign these contracts with these large national agencies, but what's taken away from that is what you just mentioned. Someone goes online. It could be a sibling, and the other family members aren't aware that they went and put in that search, put in the information, and all of a sudden they get an email like, "Hey, here's 15 communities. Good
Hmm.
luck." Then
Yeah.
the phone starts ringing,
Hmm.
and it gets overwhelming, and they're like, "What is going on here?" And
Right.
so let's say that there is a reprieve, and they don't need to place them right then. And 6 months later, ring, ring. Hey, Keeley, heard about your company and we could really use your help. And you sit there and you go, wait a minute, cart before the horse. Let me sit down with your family, see what your needs are, and let's make sure that you have everything in place, because it's not just being placed in the community.
No.
Obviously it's like, what is the budget? Do you have a home? What do you do with the home? What do you do with all the stuff in the home? And by the way, do you have an estate plan?
Yeah.
Because if that's not in place, maybe you need an elder care attorney to make sure things are
Right.
not done too soon.
Yep.
Is there a VA, in the family? Is there any Medicaid programs and waivers you may qualify for?
Absolutely.
It's a consultation. It's sitting down with the family and taking a pulse, and it's not just taking that and registering it. But with that said, you move forward, you identify the best possible community, give them a couple of options, and you go there and they go, hey, wait a minute, a place for a mom registered them a year ago, and they're
Yeah.
going to want to get paid.
And they're
Come
not
on
helping
now. Like, come on.
at this time.
Like, who
Yeah.
who's it's just
Yeah.
not right, but such is. It is what it is. But
Yeah.
point being, it begins with awareness. And so, and again, everybody across the board, it's not going to be a cost to the family for any kind of placement, whether it's a national, us locally, because
Uh-huh.
it's paid for by the in-home care community.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think it's important to let people know that there's more involved with it. So, do you have any more tips or advice of things that you consult the families with at
Yeah.
the beginning?
I think you totally highlighted the fact that our role, especially as local placement agents, is not just the placement. We
Yeah.
are really looking at that individual holistically. So
Mm-hmm.
if Mrs. Brown, we see that, Mrs. Brown hasn't, been to a doctor. She doesn't have a primary care. We're figuring out a mobile primary care to maybe connect her to or other resources. If Mr. Brown has been in the, if he's a veteran, we're connecting him to VA benefits. So we're looking at
Right.
ways to really potentially save them money and connect them to needed resources, because it's not just the placement, it's that whole transition and how that person is going to have the best quality of life and be able to be in that placement for long term. So
Mm,
that's more than just the housing situation and the care. So we are totally looking at that whole person.
yeah. It's a it's interesting to where when you really do want to make a difference and you try to get the word out there, because what's been some of your experiences that something I do want to ask you and talk to you about that we all experience is everybody comes from a different place, meaning we come across situation to where families are fortunate enough to have unlimited funds. They're private pay. They either, not just private pay, but maybe they have long-term care insurance, and they have the means to take care of whatever is needed. Uh, but too frequently, we both come across those situations to where it's heartbreaking, to where you have someone that's just they don't have any money, so I think what is really makes me proud of being associated with people like yourself is we really do care, and we're going to treat everybody the same, and we're going to do the best we can, because there are other options sometimes available out there, and we're up front and saying, hey, no promises, but we're here for you as a human being for what that's worth. And we're going to do our best to connect you with whatever resources that are available. And sometimes we can't, but we can promise you we're going to try. So that kind of gets back to the synergy of what you and I and are talking about, of having a synergistic almost community of placement agents, to where if I know in my heart, if I send someone your way to take care of, you're going to do them right. And
Yeah.
that's important for all of us. But
Yeah.
it is just as heartbreaking when you experience the people that are just limited.
Yeah.
But that's where um, I'm trying to sound the alarm now for families to start having these difficult conversations, to where I'll be transparent. I was telling my wife, every time I come back from some of these communities, it's sobering, because if God gives us the days to live, this gray hair is going to get grayer, and this hair is going to fall out even more than it already is. And if we don't prepare and are planned, oof,
Mhm.
it's scary.
Yeah, it is.
So what do it's just trying to get people to start at least just talking about it and all.
Yeah.
But what has been some of your um, heartbreaking experiences, so to speak, or are some good stories that were difficult, but you were able to make a difference by going the extra mile? Do you have anything you can share with that?
Absolutely. And I just want to say that I think that this is where you being an advocate for seniors comes in comparison to some of the national companies. Because if you don't have the funding and you tell them what your budget is, they're like, all right, we can't
Click.
help you. And
Yeah.
that's different with us. That's different with the local agent. And so currently, right now, a couple of weeks ago, I had got a referral from the hospital of a client who is a homeless individual on a very
Mm.
fixed income. And although I could not get him into, an assisted living community because of the income, to help this individual get screened for an assisted living waiver, which he'll have in about 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And although that there's some time waiting on that, it still is an opportunity to get him in a personal care home where he can be safe and have the proper care. So, and we don't get paid for this, but that's
Right.
when advocacy and actually your heart posture toward this population will be shown. And so for me, I believe that everyone should have a safe place, doesn't matter what your income is. And so my whole thing with my company is I'm not going to tell someone no, I can't help you, because even if it's as small as a resource that I'm giving you to help you get to the next step, to me that's making an impact in someone's life. So
Yeah, and I think that's part of what's already kind of been touched on is, um, let's say I use a live example of mom and dad to
Mhm.
where, and I understand that sometimes there's those emergencies. There's the slip, the fall, the stroke, the, oh my goodness, they cannot move back home. So it's crisis mode.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times there is the slow drip of, okay, things are changing. I think we need to start preparing and planning, to where there's a lot of people, if they would take the time to go ahead and allow us to provide the upfront consultation of going, hey, let's sit down and let's connect you with one of our attorneys and just do a free review of your estate. It's just a free review. Come to the workshop or whatever, or let's check into the VA side if there's a veteran. Let's look into any Medicaid waivers that may be available, because that does take time.
It does.
Is go ahead and start doing the homework and
Now.
be now and be prepared. So that's all part of what we offer is like, hey, if you just want to talk, give us a call. It doesn't have to be a pressing
Yeah.
situation. It may be 6 months, 8 months, a year, and hopefully never. Right? I mean,
Yep.
I could drop dead now. I mean, none of us are guaranteed the
Yeah.
next breath. But the point is just trying to get people to go, hey, these are not fun circumstances, but they are a fact of life. And of
Right.
course, when the more you're involved in it, like we are, the more you see, and the more you want to kind of, let people know or be aware of it,
Yeah.
because it's a sobering situation. Um, on another live personal example, and I want you to share some as well. Even though I had a sort of a pro bono case come along, and I may have mentioned it to you, and it seemed like just going to be impossible. But I called, and a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of independent care homes out there. It's not all just big communities.
Yeah.
And sometimes the care can be better in the smaller homes than the bigger communities, because it's, it's like a 1 to 4 to 5 care nurse to residents versus 1 to 15 to
Mhm.
20. Um, but I thought I'd found a place. And so it was awesome. And we went and quote unquote to tour it. Uh-uh.
No.
It was, they were just taking advantage of people,
Okay.
so that was
Mhm.
just like not going to happen,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's unfortunately, hey, thought we was going to help you, but we can't, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because again, if we're not going to put our own families there, we're not going to
That's
recommend.
right.
Yeah.
That's so right. Yeah.
But have you come across any times to where you've toured some places and behind the scenes you're like, it's pretty on the outside, but no.
Absolutely. I absolutely have. In fact, one of the placements that I worked at the beginning of the year, we were looking for memory care. And this is at a larger place that had
Mm,
okay state reviews. But when I got there and just saw some things that did not feel right, I
mm,
personally could not make a recommendation there, and I didn't. And that's the thing. I don't, these communities I am seeing, I'm going to that community, I am looking at it myself. And like Mark said, if I wouldn't even place my own dad there or own mom there, then I'm not going to refer you or recommend your mom or dad there.
yeah.
That's why you have to lay eyes on these places. It's not about just getting a list, it's making sure that someone has laid eyes on that community and has relationship. And
Mm,
that's where you benefit with getting or linking up with a local placement agent.
yeah. Well, let me ask you a personal question. I know part of the foundation, because you are a woman of faith, which is always a blessing to come across other believers. But what do you do? Because being self employed is not for the faint of heart.
Woo!
If it was easy, everybody would do it. So I always have to ask my fellow entrepreneurs, what do you do to take care of yourself? How do you navigate the, you know, day in, day out pressures and having a family and 6-year old and all that
Yeah.
stuff?
Woo, like you said, it's not for the faint at heart. And to be totally honest, day to day, I have to rely on my faith to keep navigating through, being an entrepreneur and being self employed, because all my life, I've been working since I was 14 years
Mm,
old. And I really felt like in this season of my life, the Lord was calling me out to one, have more time with my son, but to also pursue the passions, that he has given me. And that's really the aging population. And so I really had to trust God blindly. And I can tell you, he's been seeing me through because we have been living with one income. But,
Mm,
it's really staying centered in my faith and taking the time out to do my walks in the morning and just really
mm,
center myself in what is meaningful in my life. And right now, that's my son and being able to pursue, purpose really. So, it's a day to day walk and it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when it's, you're building up your business, you're starting off. And so, it's so easy to go back to what but
yeah.
there's this pull to go forward. And so, I'm relying so strongly on my faith and to continue.
Yeah, and you have to. And I'm not trying to spin off on some rabbit trail here and turn it into a conversation about. But we are living in dark days. It's nuts what's going on in our world,
Yeah.
and those of us that have a foundation of faith, we have the answer for why it's going on. It's actually whether we understand it or not, it's happening because it was written
Yeah.
that it eventually does just sort of, I don't know, spin out or whatever. But we still
Mhm.
are to be, salt and light in the world. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're trying to do with our businesses is put people first. And I think that's a foreign concept these days. It's hard for people to really believe that people do care. But that's part of, if you don't have a caring heart in this industry, it doesn't take long to be found out,
Mhm. So
so
true.
that's kind of where we are. Was there anything else you would like to add, share, or talk about that we
Yeah.
didn't cover?
We just want to encourage families, like Mark said, to have these conversations early on. I know, people don't like to have these conversations within the family, but get someone like Mark, get a local senior placement agent, get a healthcare provider to kind of talk about what the trajectory of quality of life looks like for your loved one. The earlier you have these conversations, the more prepared you'll be. And if nothing happens where you have to move out of your home, then that's wonderful. But at least you had a plan. You were prepared. So important.
Well, that's matter of fact, what you just said, that it rung a bell in my head, that we also can connect people for good in-home care services. So we have,
Mhm.
vendors in that area as well. So
Yeah.
it's not just strictly, it gets back to what we're saying, being a overall consultant is we do connect people with resources outside of just placement. There's a lot of wonderful in-home care, hospice, respite, all these services that are available for people just to catch a break, from the pressures of it all. But it's a lot available out there if people would just take the time to raise their hand or whatever. What part of the state are you covering and where are you at so people would know?
Yeah. So I'm in Canton. I cover Cherokee County, North Fulton, and also Cobb. So those are
Hmm.
kind of my three areas. And if you need anything, even if it's not, you're not ready for placement, you're not ready for home care, but you have questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer questions or at least navigate you in the right direction.
Well, Keely, it is such a pleasure to know you. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I look forward to each day that we have to continue building our rapport and working together and just being a unified effort to help families out because
Absolutely.
there's a big storm coming. It's
Hmm.
10,000 people a day are turning 65 and
Yes.
15,000 turning 75.
Yes.
Whew,
Yes,
it's
yes,
like a
yes.
lot, and so we kind of have a little bit of a crisis coming. So I think that the
Yep.
more that we can stick our flag in the sand and go, "Hey, we're here to help,"
Yep.
then all the better. But with that said, I want to thank you so much for supporting this channel and
Thank
coming on here
you.
and sharing your story.
Thank
And of
you.
course, I'll be talking to you again as frequently as we can. And of course, hopefully, someone can utilize our services, and you know we'll be able to continue to work together. So,
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate this.
yeah. With that said, I want to thank everybody that comes across this. Kielly, thank you once again. I wish you a good rest of your day, and you get that son ready for school August 1st.
Yes.
All right. Take care.